Quit! Don't reach for that firearm! Walk away from your bike! Keep your hands up! Keep your hands up! Go down to your knees! Do not reach for that firearm! Do not reach for that firearm! Go down to your knees! Go down to your stomach! Do not reach for that firearm! Go down to your stomach now! Do not reach for that firearm! Do not reach for that firearm! You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Go ahead and secure him. What? He got the firearm on his side.
Put your hands on the back.
You're being secure because you're openly carrying a firearm.
What?
You're openly carrying a firearm.
I'm carrying a pepper ball. You already know that.
I do not know that. That is a firearm. That is a firearm right now.
Shit. You know it's pepper ball.
It's a firearm. I do not know it's a pepper ball. That looks like a regular firearm.
You know it's a pepper ball, even just in case you know. It told you in the email. He even told you in the email that it's a pepper ball.
Stay with him. Do you have anything on you? Roll on your side. All right, go ahead and stand up. You can stay at your bike.
Whoa. Leave my camera alone, bro.
Hear me?
Leave my camera
No,
alone.
you're not going to talk to me. Okay, I dictate this traffic stop.
Whoa. Leave my camera alone, bro.
Hear me?
Leave my camera
No,
alone.
you're not going to talk to me. Okay, I dictate this traffic stop. Do you have anything on you? Roll on your side. All right, go ahead and stand up. You can stay at your bike. Not you. You understand me?
What are you yanking my helmet off?
I'm trying to take your helmet off.
What are you yanking my helmet
I'm
off?
trying to identify you because I can't see you.
You're trying to identify me? Bro, leave my camera alone. What are you doing?
Okay. Go ahead and sit up. Stay right there.
What are you doing?
Stay tight. I gotta. What is this?
You
It
know
is a
what
fire.
is.
No, I do not.
You know it's a pepper ball. Stop it, man.
All right, I'm gonna
Stop
take
with
it
that
up.
bullshit. Stop with that bullshit.
All right, Jeremy, being arrested for carrying a concealed weapon.
Concealed? It was in plain view.
That's not plain view. That's concealed. That holster's
How
concealed.
what are you talking about? How the fuck are you? What are you talking about? It's in plain view. Florida statute 9-7. What are you talking about? Give me a sergeant. Give me a lieutenant. Give me a lieutenant. It was in plain view. It's in plain view. How am I being arrested?
Call for a cage car. Okay.
Give me a lieutenant.
Go ahead and stand up, Jeremy.
Give me a lieutenant. Give me a lieutenant. Give me a lieutenant.
Jeremy, just be quiet.
No, give me a lieutenant. son.
Jeremy, just be quiet.
You can't. Come on, man. Give me a
Got him.
lieutenant.
Jeremy, be quiet.
Give me a lieutenant. What? This is bullshit. It was in plain view.
Have him call for a record for the bike. Sit down, Jeremy.
He wasn't talking.
Sit
to
down.
me.
No, I'm telling you to sit down. Go ahead and sit down. On the ground. On the ground until we get a cage car.
I don't want you falling back.
It's falling off over the side. Go ahead and sit on your butt. Take your legs out. I checked.
Let's go on a pair of holsters.
You're not getting a lieutenant. You're going to be quiet. You're going to be quiet.
Why am I having to? Why is 970 not valid now? Why is Stephen Casey Miller email not valid now? Why is that not valid now? I don't understand. We're not. It was in plain.
Jeremy, listen to me. Jeremy, listen to me.
You guys even told us that. You guys have told us over the phone. Today, it's illegal.
Shutting the body camera off to make a phone call.
Sergeant.
Listen, you're free to go. I don't have anything on you. You're free to go. So you can do what you can do what you need.
I need you to call.
You do have a license, right?
Take my phone off my bike right there.
Okay, no, but you're free to go.
Take my phone.
No.
Joe, hey, that's my phone. What the fuck is going on? I wasn't open carrying.
Sit down! Sit down and be quiet!
Where's your
Sit
lieutenant?
down!
Where's the lieutenant? Where's the lieutenant? Where is the lieutenant?
So, I'm supposed to talk about, I can't really talk about what happened. I have to give that disclaimer, is that I can't really talk about everything because not because there's anything to hide necessarily. It's just because it's an open case. It's a pending case. When we had the whole situation with the vandalism, all of the tires on the vehicles were slashed, things were spray painted. We contacted 911. They sent out a community, I think they're called CSOs or something like that. They're basically just you and me. And they come out and they make reports and they help out the police departments, basically. They're paid for it. It's not a volunteer program or anything like that. They are paid for it, but they're not police officers. And, we had multiple vehicles that were vandalized. They didn't even send out the police. They just sent out 2 citizens. But when I called and, I told them who I was, and, I also, named Jeremy as someone who was on the scene that night, there were 8 Orlando Police Department vehicles there. I think there were 7 or 8 patrol vehicles and then an unmarked. That was Lieutenant Dylan. He came out. I never spoke to him. He never came up to me. He never asked me a question. He never said anything to me. I was basically just dealing with this one woman who was kind of over the investigation, but there really wasn't an investigation. They were saying in the report, I don't know if you can pull it up, I'm pretty sure you can by now. They were saying that I was being uncooperative. So uncooperative can mean a lot of things. It can mean that, you're being loud and crazy and throwing things, yelling, whatever. But for me, it was just, I stopped answering questions and I refused to sign certain things and I refused to make a police report. So to them, that is being uncooperative. The person who calls you tells you what's going on and you are holding them there with another person for 2 hours trying to build a case. People say don't try to argue with a cop, before you go to court. Don't try to plead your case in front of a cop. But the cops were sitting there and they were building a case against him for 2 hours. So it wasn't that I was necessarily uncooperative. It was just that I refused to answer any questions. I mean, I have that right not to answer anything. And my statements didn't matter to them. The fact that I wouldn't make a report didn't matter to them. I refused to sign anything. I wouldn't even take the victim pamphlet that they were offering me. They asked me if I would take it. I said no. One of the officers that was there, I'm explaining to him what happened because they're trying to get me to make a report at this point. They're like, well, why don't you want to make one? And I said, well, there's no reason to. And one of the officers was saying, well, why are you protecting him? And I'm not protecting anyone. I'm just not going to sit there and pretend like I truly believe the police give a shit about me. They don't care about me. That night was not about me. This process or whatever they're trying to do is not about me. This is about their egos, and this is about Jeremy Dewitte. It has nothing to do with me. So I'm not going to play that game where I believe, oh yeah, they actually care about me and they're looking out for me and they want to make sure that, he doesn't do anything to me and they really want to investigate it. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't care. The courts don't care. It's not about me. It's about him. And of course, I think anyone would be upset if they're being used as a pawn for someone to get another person. It's basically about going after him, and they're using me as a pawn. When everything was happening that night, they also were calling Detective Smith. So I don't remember his first name at all. But Detective Smith, obviously he works for Orlando Police Department, and he was on the phone. I guess he was at home eating cornflakes. I don't know what he was doing, but he was giving them information. So the cops were talking to me and trying to get me to basically go against Jeremy, build a case against Jeremy, but I wasn't responding. I was being uncooperative and I wasn't helping them. So they got Detective Smith on the phone, and he's sitting at home and he's saying, "Oh, well, I know the history of Jeremy and Jennifer." Although he doesn't, but he says that he knows our history. And so he's telling them, oh, well, even though she said this is what happened. And even though she's telling you that, this is what happened. I don't understand how his words matter at all. He wasn't even on the scene. But they were calling him and adding additional information that wasn't true at all. The affidavit or report or whatever they made was so... I know that a lot of people say that police lie, but it was full of so much bullshit, like things that I supposedly said and things that Jeremy supposedly said that he would never ever say and I would never ever say, and they were just using the words of Detective Smith, and that was basically it. But he wasn't on the scene. The only person who was in charge that was on the scene was Lieutenant Dillon, but I never saw Detective Smith, and as I said before, Lieutenant Dillon never spoke to me, never said a word to me, never asked me any questions. So it was all very strange, all very weird. They were all they were circled around the car or the vehicle that Jeremy was in. He was in an SUV, so they were all circled around him, and they weren't even really talking to me at all. In Orange County, the way that it's set up is you go to the jail as a victim, as the attorney, everyone. You go through their little security, and they put you in like a waiting room, and then when it's your turn to go upstairs, a CO comes out, and they will get you and they will bring you up in the elevator, and I think you go up to like the 4th floor or something like that. And then you're brought into another room, and it's a larger room, and you can see inside the little courtroom. It's not this big, massive courtroom. It's not anything like that. It's not fancy at all. It's just a little room. And the judge is obviously on the left. All the attorneys and the defendants are on the right. And they can see you. You can see them. It's this big glass, I guess like a glass partition. And they can see inside, you can see outside and see who's coming in. And then when you're a victim or a witness, but I guess mainly a victim, they bring you to another little room, and it's a little glass box, basically. You just stand there, and there's a microphone in there, and that's it. And they start asking you some questions about what happened, what didn't happen, who you are. So when I got to the jail, I was talking to Amir. Amir is Jeremy's defense attorney, and he was, just asking me kind of what happened, and I was just telling him the situation. So after that, I was brought up through on the elevators. I was brought up by a CO, and then brought into that room that I was telling you about, where you can see into the little courtroom. And so Amir came up maybe 20 minutes after that, and he saw who the judge was, and I could see on his face, we're all wearing masks, of course, but I can see in his eyes that he is a little concerned when he sees, who the judge is. Later on, Amir told me after everything happened and Jeremy's bonds were revoked, Amir texted me and he said, "Are you still here? Are you still at the jail?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm still here. I was in the parking lot. I hadn't left yet." And so I met him, and he told me everything that was happening, the process that we kind of have to go through to get all of this kind of wiped away. Once he saw who the judge was, he knew that we were going to have problems because, they all of these attorneys, of course, Judge Bain was an attorney at some point, obviously. And so they all know each other. And he's also the judge that Jeremy was supposed to see during the whole Vidler situation before his charges were dropped. So that was the judge he was supposed to see. And if you've seen the clips of that, I think it's on our YouTube channel. That judge said to Amir, counsel your client, talk to your client. And he said it as if, and a lot of other people caught that too. He said it as if all of this was Jeremy's problem, as if Jeremy was the cause of his own unlawful arrest. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't know he was the same judge that day. But apparently Amir did. And Amir, he said that he knew it was going to be a problem. He knew that Jeremy more than likely wasn't going to go home that day.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I have Jeremy Dewitte.
Yeah, I think I don't need to bring him in for that. All right, of course, that session. All right, this is 2021 CF 3392AO. I guess this is the sheriff's office, I think. Deciding to withdraw the charges against him, so we'll release him on his own recognizance as to this charge.
Thank you, Your Honor. No action taken on
Yeah,
on
no
the
action
matter.
on his other cases.
Thank you so much, Judge. That's all I have before the court. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Talk to him, counsel him.
I'm working on it, Your Honor. I don't know which one I need to counsel more, Sergeant Vidler or my client, but we're working on it.
It sounds like a volatile situation waiting to happen.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Thank you, Judge.
That whole experience was very stressful. I remember being more nervous about this than any other situation I've had with Jeremy as far as, the courts and things like that. The situation with Vidler, I don't even think we were that nervous about that. I mean, it was just, to me, it didn't make any sense. And because it was Vidler who was doing the arrest, I already knew it was dirty and that it was probably going to come back as dirty. I just didn't know that they were going to drop it so quickly. And I'm happy they did. And I was just I was really, really nervous. And when I, was talking to the judge and everything, I didn't really know I didn't know if I should say too much or if I should say too little. You don't really know, unless you're like in that situation, you don't know if what you're saying is going to help or if it's going to hurt. Obviously, when he was asking me about if we'd ever had a situation like that before, in my head, I'm thinking, well, no, we've never had a situation where, I have an injury, but he's there. But I mean, there's been stuff in the past, but that was only because Jeremy was there at the time. So there was another situation. And like I said, I can't really go too deeply into it because it's still pending. And so there was another situation that happened and Jeremy was at the scene. And once they found out that Jeremy was at the scene, all hell kind of broke loose. And they put out a warrant for him. So he wasn't even really the one that I was like going after. But they put out a warrant for him, not for the other person who I was calling about, but they put out a warrant for him. That's just kind of how it was. So when the judge said, well, have you ever called about that before? Or has there ever been like an accusation? I guess he was saying like an accusation of DV. Before I was thinking, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. So I didn't really know how to answer that. So my only issue, and I understand why the judge was kind of like, well, I don't, I see what I consider to be a history, and then you're telling me something different. So I kind of understand why he felt that way. What I didn't understand about the whole situation was, as I was stating before, when you're a victim, you're in a room that's separated by, just like a wall of glass. And the woman before me, so there was a woman that was sitting there, and I guess her husband or boyfriend or whatever, he hit her. And she was pregnant. I couldn't tell she was pregnant, but I guess she was pregnant, and she went into the little glass box, the little witness, victim, whatever box. And he hit her and she's pregnant. And the judge gave him, I think it was $1,000 bond, which is basically $100. You just put up 100 and then that's pretty much it. And then they had no hostile contact. No hostile contact is when, you can't yell at the person. Obviously, you can't hit the person. You can't throw things at the person. The way I'm speaking is the way you talk to the individual. It can never go above, I guess just a normal speaking voice. And he, like I said, he allowed that man to bond out, and he allowed that man to have no hostile contact with the victim. So this victim is pregnant, and she was hit, beaten, whatever, by this man, and the judge is saying, oh, well, go ahead, $1,000 bond. Go ahead, no hostile contact. Have a good day. And then Jeremy comes out. When I spoke to Amir about that, he was, he said, sometimes a judge kind of has their mind made up. He said, I don't believe anything you said would have changed the outcome. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. He explained everything to me. He explained what was happening, what the judge ordered, basically what this means. I understood it, but I needed to hear it again. I remember stepping out of the witness victim box, whatever you want to call it. And I remember asking one of the COs, I said, what just happened? I understood it. I heard it, but I guess I hadn't processed it like right after it happened. I didn't know that this was probably not going to go well. No one told me that, but I could sense it, but I didn't really know it. And then when I met Amir downstairs, he just explained it all to me, which I knew, but hearing it from him was different. And then I was able to kind of process it, and we immediately started taking action. And he said, can you meet me at the office and sign a declination of prosecution? That is online right now. You can see it yourself. Obviously, I have a copy, original forms, whatever. But that was e-filed that day. A declination of prosecution is basically the victim's way of saying, I want no parts of this. In a nutshell, it's just, I don't want any parts of this. I don't want to move forward with this. I have no interest in pursuing this. And it usually is, there's usually like they call it a no file or something like that, where they usually just don't file on that. The only thing kind of holding Jeremy in jail right now is this case, and they don't have a case, and they know that. A police officer building a case off of PC, probable cause, is very different from a state attorney or an assistant state attorney having to build a case where there's no reasonable doubt. That's why a lot of cases kind of fade out once they get to a courtroom. And it's very different when you're out in the streets with the cops who are doing patrol, and they're like, okay, well, we think this happened, and the victim is kind of saying it, but not really, but we think it happened, so we have probable cause, PC, we're going to go ahead and arrest them. There's a difference between that and 100% without a doubt we have a winnable case. I don't know a lot about the process, but what I do know about the assistant state attorneys for at least the 9th Judicial is they are overworked and underpaid, and they are not going to take on a case that they can't win, and they won't be able to win this one. The police called me uncooperative, and I will continue to be uncooperative. I will not pursue this. The other thing, as far as anything having to do with Orange County, I do know that one of the attorneys for Orange County, I believe it was Austin Moore, reached out because people were trying to do public records requests because they're obsessed. And they were trying to do public records requests for conversations that Jeremy and I have had in the past. So when me and Jeremy were dating, obviously, we were in an intimate adult relationship. So we were exchanging certain text messages, certain photos, things like that. This guy named Jay Horowitz from Real World, he was asking for naked photos of me and Jeremy. So he's asking to get that through the public records. Now, I don't know why he would want naked photos of me and Jeremy. I don't know why he would want naked photos of anyone involved in this situation. I don't know if he plans on posting those online, but the fact that Orange County Sheriff's Office, their legal department, reached out to see what they could do as far as, well, do you want us to release this? What are you guys going to do as far as, filing something or stalling this? This person is basically obsessed and trying to get everything he can on Jeremy and on Jennifer. And so that came to our attention. For some reason, people believe that they have the right to access every part of Jeremy's life, and I guess every part of my life now. anyone who asks to see naked photos of someone is a fucking loser and an obsessive stalker. And anyone who doesn't see that, anyone who participates in that, and anyone who sort of thinks that that's okay also has some issues. Something's not right there. Something's definitely not right. But I do think Orange County Sheriff's Office, their legal department, for at least having a little bit of common sense to say, this is weird. This guy is weird. The situation is weird. Let's reach out to Jeremy's attorney and see what we can do about this, because it doesn't make any sense why they're asking for this, why they would want this. What do we do as far as protecting him and protecting other people that are, involved in these pictures that were exchanged? Everything went well this weekend as far as his business, as far as the funeral escorts. We did the scheduling. His family has really stepped in to help a lot. Nothing has really changed except that Jeremy's not here. And he's only not here for a little bit, for a little while. It's only temporary. And we had people that came in from out of state, and they volunteered. I mean, they didn't even ask for anything. They volunteered to help us out because they knew what was going on. They were like, is there anything we can do to help? And we appreciate them so much. We appreciate just, the kindness of people who kind of have this want to help him. Jeremy has a great support system. He has a great family. He has great friends. He has great people around him who will come together no matter what to keep things going for him, because they love him, because they care about him, because they support him. And even people that don't really know him and have never met him, they care about him and they support him. And it means a lot because we got everything that we needed to get done this weekend. And we will continue to move forward. Metro State will not stop. I mostly did this little vlog for Jeremy's fans. I mean, I'm definitely not a vlogger. I have no interest in doing any of that. I don't really, that's not my thing. That's, Jeremy, he's so, I guess, confident, cocky, arrogant, whatever you want to call it. He likes that kind of stuff. He likes talking to people. He likes, kind of putting himself out there and making jokes and stuff. I'm not that person at all. I've never been that person. So I mostly just did this for the people that care about him and the people that support him. I just want to let them know that he's going to be okay and he's going to get out. And what you're hearing, don't listen to most of it. Most of it is bullshit. Don't be discouraged. He will be home. He will get out. It will not be a situation where he doesn't get out. It's just a matter of time. You just have to be a little patient. But knowing him, I know that, he loves his supporters, his little motors, mini motors, as he calls you all. He definitely loves, how much you guys have helped him and been there for him and kind of given him that extra boost, that extra support that he needs. So I'm just doing this for you guys to let you know that everything is okay. Everything will be okay.